Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Hope you are well. We are on the precipice of something very exciting with the release of Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, a sequel to a game I absolutely adore. I was obsessed with it when it came out. One of the rare instances where I power through and play a massive game from beginning to end, no stops. I'm just obsessed with it. And I was absolutely obsessed with the very first Death Stranding, and I spent all the time reading all the little different bits of lore in the emails that you would get and all the interviews that would happen. And basically, very soon after I beat the game, I actually was gonna build a video for a separate thing as an explainer, right? It was going to be 30-minute explainer of the entire timeline of Death Stranding. I worked on that video forever. It just kept getting bigger and bigger, and I just ended up not having time to do it. And so it sat on the back burner for forever. And I've wanted to... Oh, we got some chocolate chip cookies being delivered. Perfect. This is great. Oh yeah, those are great. Those will do me nice. So, I got a very sticky mouth. So, was obsessed with Death Stranding. Pieced together this timeline, wasn't able to finally do the video. And I've wanted to come back to it so many times before the sequel. And now the sequel's coming out in June, which is only a couple of months away. Which means that I don't really have time to get it done anymore. So I thought, what would be a good way to do this? And I'll just do a live explainer, just kind of walking through essentially the timeline that I had put together. And so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna walk you through the like complete timeline of the very first game, and after that, then we will theorize some stuff with the trailer for the second game, because there's a lot in that trailer that looks on the surface like complete nonsense, right? But once you know all the ins and outs of Death Stranding, the trailer starts to make a lot more sense. So hopefully this will be great prep for anyone that has played Death Stranding and doesn't really know what it's about or remember what it's about. And also for people who want to know what Death Stranding is about before playing 2. That being said, I absolutely adore Death Stranding. I think that if you're curious about this game at all, I understand why it doesn't click for certain people, but if it is a game you are interested in, you have a curiosity in, I do recommend playing it. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's worth experiencing, but I also understand that with the second one coming out, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to want to jump right into 2, and this is for those people who aren't going to get around to playing it. But of course, spoiler alert for the plot of Death Stranding. Okay, so let's get into it. Again, spoilers from here on out on what Death Stranding is about. So, what Death Stranding is about is the universe, okay? And namely life itself, right? So the Big Bang happens. And the Big Bang happens because of a collision between matter and antimatter. And because of it, the universe is formed, and life begins to exist, and life, evolution, all of that. Now, Death Stranding posits that the universe has a will of its own, and that the universe kind of sees life as a mistake. It kind of sees itself as a mistake. There is a kind of like natural, like the universe is born and it will end, and it's kind of like this natural process that happens. And basically, the universe is trying to off itself constantly, trying to kill life, trying to discontinue its constant expansion and return to a state of nothingness. And that there is something somewhere out there that is trying to cause this to happen. And so the way that the universe does this is through extinction events. Okay, like the dinosaurs. And prior to Death Stranding, there have been 5 extinction events, which I actually think is like what scientifically there have been classified. Like in the history of the Earth, there have been 5 world-ending events, and the dinosaurs being one of them. And basically, the way that works is through something known as an extinction entity. Let me finish chewing this cookie first. So, an extinction entity is basically a creature chosen at random that will act essentially as a conduit to the universe being able to execute on this extinction, because life and death are the physical incarnations essentially of matter and antimatter. And so an extinction event is brought much how in the same way that an antimatter and matter colliding formed the universe. That same collision would in theory end the universe as well. And so the land of the dead is the land of antimatter, and the land of the living is the land of matter. And the extinction entity is a creature that is connected to the afterlife, essentially. And for each of the 5 previous extinction events, there was an extinction entity. There was a dinosaur, I think it was a trilobite, a like human, like a Neanderthal, right? But all of those extinction events failed. They didn't fully wipe out all of life. And so life kept persisting, even after those extinction events. And Death Stranding is a game about the 6th extinction event and the 6th extinction entity. That being Bridget Strand. So Bridget Strand is basically just this normal, like, nobody person, right? Just like anyone plucked off the street, but chosen at random, seemingly, by the universe to be the conduit for the 6th extinction event. And Bridget essentially comes to understand this herself, because she has visions, she dreams about the apocalypse all the time. She has nightmares about this apocalyptic end, and she comes to understand her place in the universe as the extinction entity. I need to bring up my notes real quick. I need to bring my notes real quick because there are a ton of details now that I need to remember. I was just going off the top of the dome before, but here we are. Okay. So, Bridget Strand. Okay, Bridget Strand. Oh God, where are? Okay, we got a lot of story left. So she's always had nightmares, and she comes to understand them to be visions of the future. The future she will eventually bring about as the extinction entity, and that will, be an apocalyptic event that has the potential to destroy all life on Earth. She ends up getting cancer, uterine cancer, in her 20s, and this is seemingly a side effect of her being an extinction event. She gets cancer because she's an extinction entity, sorry, not an event. And she has an operation to, extract the tumor. And this operation actually severs her in half, metaphysically, not actually. They don't slice her in half. But she gets separated into 2, her body and her soul. And her body remains on Earth and ages and is a person, but her soul goes to her beach. What is a beach? A beach is essentially purgatory. It is the space between the land of the living and the dead. And everyone has their own beach. All right, so you will wash up on your beach. The idea being you'll wash up on your beach when you die, and you will eventually pass on to the afterlife from there. Everyone has their own beach. Everyone can only travel to their own beach when they die. But Bridget, as the extinction entity, is actually able to travel across all of the beaches. Okay? And please, in chat, if you have any questions, let me know so I can clarify, because this is where it starts to kind of get a bit confusing. Okay? So, everyone has this conduit to the afterlife. It's called their beach. They travel to it. They go to the beach before they pass on into the afterlife. You can only go to your own, except Bridget, who can travel to all of them because she is the extinction entity. And it is actually at this point where she discovers that she is the extinction entity by her soul being on the beach. And the beach is a place where time doesn't pass. So her soul never ages. Her soul can essentially exist here forever. And it's here that her soul comes to understand that she is the extinction entity, and her soul can communicate to her body, you know, I guess mentally through dreams, through the visions. I don't know exactly how that works, but basically can communicate back and forth with her body. And so Bridget, the human, the body, learns from Bridget, the soul, that she is an extinction entity and that she will eventually bring about this apocalyptic event. And the two become determined to try and prevent it from happening. And they understand that because on the beach there is no time stands completely still, and because Amelie has access to the beach of every person that has ever lived or has ever died. And so she has this kind of access to all of these people's lives. And so they kind of understand that Amelie has essentially eternity to figure out a solution, and has access to, you know, the entirety of human knowledge, essentially, in the beaches. So that is their plan, is they're going to try and stop the extinction event, and they're going to do so by utilizing Bridget's soul's ability to travel across the beaches without the passage of time. Okay? In the real world, Bridget is still normal, still human. The cancer never goes away, but she lives a longer life, and she ends up getting into politics, and she ends up becoming the vice president of the United States. Okay? Okay. So, now, because Bridget was split in twain, right? Her soul and her body was split. Because of that, a tiny, tiny, tiny little fracture in the lands of the living and the dead forms. Okay? And so that allows antimatter to slowly start to seep into reality, essentially. Okay? And the first example of this happening happens in this woman is getting a C-section, okay? And it's just random person, okay? Something had happened. She had become brain dead, and that caused her baby to, you know, start dying in the womb. And, you know, the doctors are trying to get it out. And the baby dies, and it becomes something called a BT, or a beached thing. In fact, actually, on this previous slide here, all these flying bodies are beach things. They take different forms. You've seen them in the trailers. They're either like humans with umbilical cords, or they're, you know, whales or something like that. You know, whatever they were in real life, they essentially become like this like dark spectral version of. And that's what a BT is. And it's a soul that cannot pass onto their beach, and it's still tethered to our world. But the deal is that this is a creature made of pure antimatter. And when antimatter and matter collide, they cause a big explosion, just like the Big Bang. So when this doctor is operating on this woman and trying to you know, remove this child that has now become a BT, and the doctor touches the BT, the beached thing, an explosion happens. Okay, and this is known as the first void out. Okay, And the problem is the like one like the void out causes even more cracks in the seams, you know, in the walls between reality and death. And so the chances of more antimatter spilling into the world increase with this explosion. Okay, so essentially the equivalent of like a nuclear blast happens. Void outs range in size, I think, depending on the situation, but they're big explosions, and they can be immensely devastating. But the government tries to cover it up. They claim it's a terrorist attack, but Bridget knows that it is, because Amelie is connected to all the beaches. She learns, like, this isn't a terrorist attack. This was caused by, this is like basically the beginning of the sixth extinction event. And so she is like, shit, the shit that I fucking predicted is coming to, you know, is happening. And she's starting to realize that even though Amelie essentially has eternity on the beach, Bridget herself is very limited on time. So they're still dictated by the rules of time because Bridget exists in reality. And so Bridget starts to pull strings in, you know, and starts to trying to devise a program to kind of research beached things, to research void outs, and to basically get a better understanding of what is happening and what she can potentially do to stop it. So she creates a new department called Bridges, and basically what they do is they find, because her theory is that you know, the very first BT was a kind of stillborn child, or a child born to a still mother, right? A brain dead mother. They essentially bring in the Bridges starts doing research on pregnant women who are brain dead. And they call the babies bridge babies, or BBs. But while doing this, they run the risk of causing another void out, and another void out does actually occur when they're trying to essentially experiment on this baby. And this happens in Manhattan. So this explosion happens in Manhattan. It kills the president, who I guess just happened to be in Manhattan at the same time. And yeah, so it's a big fucking deal. The government basically like shuts the bridge program, the BB program down. And Bridget, who is now the president after the death of the president in the Manhattan void out, but she keeps Bridges alive. And she keeps the BB program going, but as a secret. And they start to basically secure these babies in these pods, which you've seen again if you've seen the trailers. And in these pods, the babies are prevent, you know, they prevent you from making contact with the babies. And so basically she comes to understand that the BBs link the world of the dead with the living, and if they essentially created a network with these like BBs forming different links and connected it to the beach, maybe they could benefit a bit more. Maybe they could enhance the essentially the fact that the time stands still on the beach, and maybe it would give them a bit of an edge and give them a bit more, buy them a bit more time in the real world to figure out the problem. Meanwhile, they keep bringing in these still mothers, right? But now it's all hush hush and super secret. And they bring in, oh, here we go. Yeah, so they form bridges. The explosion takes out New York. So they bring in this woman, Lisa Unger, and her husband, Cliff, who is played by Mads Mikkelsen. And basically, Lisa is a still mother, and their son is dying. And so they think that Bridges has just brought them in to help them. They don't realize that they're essentially planning to utilize their child in this kind of this what they end up calling the chiral network, and we'll talk about chiral and chiralium later. So anyway, so they bring Cliff and Lisa in, and basically Lisa and the BB, who is now like outside of the womb and is in the pod, they basically are there for months, and Cliff just, you know, keeps coming to visit them all the time. But one day Cliff runs into this guy. This guy is, I shit you not, John Blake McClane. If you thought that Kojima had like an ounce of subtlety in him at all. So he is actually in charge of the Bridges program, and Cliff and John essentially served together in the military back in the day, and Cliff saved John's life at one point, and he was like his platoon captain or whatever, and he basically finds out like, oh shit, like you're the father of this kid that we have. You think the kid is, you know, here and we're just trying to like save its life, save your mother's life. That's not why you're here. We're like, you're using this baby to, you know, to do this, like this shit that, like, you know, the top secret shit. Like, and he basically says to Cliff, like, you're not safe here. Like, you got to get him out. There's nothing we can do to save your wife. Like, you've got, you know, leave and take your baby with you. And so he's like, I'll help you escape, essentially. And so Cliff, like, mercy kills his wife. He tries to escape with his child, but he is unable to, essentially. And she basically, Bridget, you know, she ends up finding out this is happening, and she is like, she thinks that like Cliff's child is the key to cracking open the chiral network and to you know, create this connection to the beach, and essentially once they do that, they can figure out how to stop the extinction event from happening. So she orders John to kill Cliff, and he hesitates, so she pulls the trigger for him, and the bullet kills both Cliff and his son. And like, she is really shaken by this, and the fact that she also ended up killing the child that she believed to be the key to saving the world, essentially. And on the beach, her soul travels to Cliff's son's beach, because he's died, right? So he's washed up on his beach, about to pass into the afterlife. She shows up on the beach, and she fixes his wounds, which happen to be over his belly button. And so she like basically like removes that, fixes his wounds, but in doing so, she like permanently connects her to him. And so they are kind of always connected because she used her, you know, beach magic essentially to save him. And so she sends him back to the land of the living. Okay, so he survives the attack, and essentially this makes him a repatriate, which we'll get to soon, but basically that's someone who can keep coming back from their beach to life if they die. And she kind of gave him this gift, quote unquote, right? Anyway, so in the real world, Sam is back, he's alive. The baby is back and is alive. And Bridget raises him as her own son and calls him Sam, right? So this is Norman Reedus' character, but as a baby. And during the game, you actually don't know that. You think a different BB, the one that Sam carries, is Cliff's son, but it's not. It's actually Sam himself, Norman Reedus. That will explain all of that. And again, let me know if you have any questions in the chat if this gets confusing at all, but hopefully it's making some sense. So Bridget raises Sam, and basically he is raised by both her body and her soul because he is connected to Bridget's soul. But at this point, Bridget has aged dramatically, and now her soul and her body aren't the same age. So they pretend and they they put this whole story together that Bridget is Sam's Bridget's soul is actually Sam's sister, and that her name is Amelie. So they give her the name Amelie. And so Sam believes that Amelie is his sister and it's just Bridget's soul. And he grows up and he spends time on her beach because he can travel there. Amelie can basically give him access to her beach, and basically he has memories of visiting his sister. So we mentioned Sam's a repatriate, right? The seam, which is the ocean that you wash up to onto the beach, that's what it's called. He can basically travel through the seam to come back to life. So if the beach is a purgatory between life and death, the seam is the purgatory between life and the beach. And so he can repatriate. And then he also has something called dooms. And dooms are essentially an affliction that some people get because the walls of like life and death are breaking down. And so like dooms are essentially like very, very, very minute versions of like Amelie's omnipotence, right? Amelie in the beach is essentially a god, and it's like a little taste of that, but it comes with everything, or it comes with selective things, right? People have different dooms, and Sam's dooms, which are again caused from the fact that of his connection to Amelie, and he is basically aware of the like beached things. He can sense them, and also he has basically her apocalyptic visions as well. So there's that, and then on top of that, Amelie saving Sam is like a huge like crack in the wall. This is them. This is Sam when he was a kid, and this is like Amelie and them like hanging out and shit. But her having saved his life, like basically took a big old fucking sledgehammer and like putting him back into the land of the living, sending him back and making him a repatriate. Big old sledgehammer to the wall of life and death. And so like beach things start appearing way more frequently in the real world, and void outs are happening constantly, and like a ton of humans, a ton of people die, essentially. Not everyone, the world starts building these underground cities. They because the world is just crawling with BTs from all of the dead people. They start burning their dead. So if someone dies, they burn them. They live underground in these big cities, all these different outposts, right? And the whole world becomes disconnected, and America in particularly, which is ground zero for all of this, right? And burning their dead basically prevents the soul from becoming trapped and becoming a BT. Also, there's timefall, right? So this is the atmosphere essentially being infected by the antimatter, and rain becomes timefall. Rain and snow become timefall, and basically if you're a living thing and you're touched by timefall, like if you get rain on your skin or snow on your skin, you will begin rapidly aging. And so, like, just basically outside world at this point, a very inhospitable place. Everyone's living underground, and that event is dubbed the Death Stranding, right? But essentially it is the extinction event that Amelie and that Bridget and Amelie have been trying to avoid. And basically they also realize that in their attempt to try and stop the sixth extinction event from happening, they've actually been making it happen. It potentially might not have happened, or at least to the extent that it did, if Amelie hadn't started bridges, started the BB program, killed Sam, saved Sam, sent him back. Like, she just basically came to believe that she was only making things worse. And so they don't really know what to do, because they don't have a solution on how to stop it. And they are, humanity is on its last legs, essentially. So they have a change of heart and basically decide the best course of action is to just accelerate it. Put humanity out of its misery. If this is an inevitable thing, let's get it over with, rather than this like long drawn out apocalypse. And so they start thinking of ways to try and accelerate the Death Stranding, and essentially cause another Death Stranding, which they call the Last Stranding. And basically they realize that they can utilize the BBs and the chiral network that they've put in place and started building. They basically think that which again was designed to connect the land of the living and the dead, they think they can use that essentially to now accelerate the Last Stranding. And now Bridges, on top of doing all the having the BB program, which they start actually winding down, they also are connecting America, and they basically have porters, and Sam essentially becomes one of these porters that ferry cargo between different settlements and outposts between people and things like that. And but other businesses essentially form, and there is a private delivery entity known as Fragile that is formed, and it is named after the founder's daughter, Fragile, played by Leah Seydoux, who is in the first game and also in the second game. So her name is Fragile. He names the company after her, and she ends up, she grows up and she ends up working for Fragile, being called Fragile, and she either hires or comes in contact with someone else that works at Fragile, who's named Higgs, played by Troy Baker, who doesn't look this like fucked up, I'm assuming, when they first meet. And he has a whole personal history that's like got some details, but basically he also wants to prevent he has grand designs of preventing the apocalypse. And both Higgs and Fragile have dooms as well, right? So they both have a little touch of Amelie's sauce, for lack of a better word. And Fragile's dooms allow her to basically use her beach to teleport around. And between the two of them, Higgs becomes a big part of Fragile, the company, and between the two of them, they kind of like plan of like, oh, maybe we can use our powers to save the world, right? Okay, so that's Fragile, and that is Higgs for now. We'll come back to them. All right. While all this is happening, Sam grows up and he meets a woman called Lucy. And Lucy is, and her picture here is on the left. Her face, like a raindrop got on the picture, so it caused it to age. That's why it's like messed up. But basically, Sam starts seeing a therapist because he's like, I'm having nightmarish visions of the future. Like, I can't stop dreaming about the apocalypse. So he starts going to a therapist, and her name is Lucy. And they fall in love, they get married, and Lucy becomes pregnant. However, because Sam was the one that got Lucy pregnant, she now, because of her connection to their child, the physical connection through the umbilical cord, Lucy herself gets some of Sam's dooms. So she starts also having apocalyptic visions. And she's like, what the fuck? This is crazy. I'm starting to have the same nightmares that my husband has been describing to me. What the fuck is going on? And basically Bridget explains to her, the apocalypse is coming, right? Like this is why all this is happening. This is why you're having visions. And like there's nothing that can be done. And so Lucy falls into a pit of despair, and she commits suicide. And Sam comes back, and because he returns home, and he comes to find a BT, because her body wasn't burned. And Sam comes into contact with the BT, and that triggers a void out, right? This big explosion. Sam repatriates, right? Because he can survive, because he can travel back and forth through the seam, and he essentially wakes up in a crater. And so he lost his wife and child. He caused this void out to happen, and so he resigns from Bridges, and he basically becomes detached from the world, realizing that he is, basically shouldn't be getting in contact with anyone, living or dead, because he just ruins lives essentially. So shit's getting worse, and Bridget has lost Sam as well, and so they're like, okay, it's time to wrap this shit up. Okay, this shit sucks. Let's get it done. So they have Amelie lead a Bridges team across the country, essentially to convince cities and settlements and outposts and all these disparate elements of the world to connect, right, and become a part of this thing called the Chiral Network and form the United Cities of America. So Amelie does that, and she leads a team, and parts of the team kind of break off to establish foundations for the network at all of these different locations. And along this journey, Amelie meets Higgs, and she realizes that he has dooms, but she also recognizes his desire to save humanity. She kind of sees herself in him a little bit, and she kind of explains hey, it's because of me, and I'm real sorry but there's nothing, like, I don't think there's anything we can do. And she convinces Higgs that the best solution is to basically mercifully end humanity's suffering. So she twists his desire into going along with her plan. And also he's like becomes essentially fascinated by her, and kind of sees her to be the god that she is, kind of thing. And so he becomes like, he goes nuts, right? He becomes like infatuated with her and he goes crazy. And he realizes also, like, oh, like what Fragile can do by teleporting around through her beach, like that's just a fraction of the power you have. So he like basically ditches Fragile for Amelie, and Amelie also like increases his Doom's abilities because she believes that he can help her in enacting the Last Stranding, and so she increases his Doom's abilities. This basically allows him to control BT and Timefall. He can summon BTs, he can cause Timefall to happen, and he basically forms his own kind of cult called Homo Daemons, and their plan is just like, we're just going to cause as many void outs as possible. That's how they're going to enact the Last Stranding. And the more void outs that happen, the more the walls between life and death break down, the more antimatter that spills in, eventually causing the Last Stranding, is their thinking. And so he basically utilizes Fragile. And he gets like a sick gold, he gets like cool fucking armor and shit like that, right? And he basically utilizes Fragile in his plans to deliver bombs to two like major settlements. And so basically he has Fragile moving cargo that she doesn't realize, she doesn't know what it is, or doesn't realize what it actually is, and it's two bombs. And it blows up the town Middle Knot. All of the like towns and stuff are called like Middle Knot or like South Knot or Port Knot, all these different things. So Middle Knot city is destroyed, and Fragile essentially realizes that what had happened, that Higgs had given her this bomb to deliver, and so she tries to go back to South Knot, where the bomb she delivered, and she tries to save the city, but she is stopped by Higgs. And Higgs gives her two choices. She can just teleport away and leave South Knot to its fate, or she can continue to attempt to she wants to drop the nuclear bomb in like a tar pit, right? The tar is like sludge, essentially, I guess, from the beach or whatever. She wants to drop it in a tar pit. He's like, go ahead, give it a go. But he snaps his fingers and it starts raining, right? It starts raining with Timefall, which, causes someone to rapidly age. And he basically forces her to basically dress down into just like her underwear, and is like, go forth, like go give it a try. Like you can either do that or you can just like bounce out of here. Yeah, he's really fucked up. It's really fucked up. And then the icing on the fucked up cake here is that he covers her face to prevent the rain from getting on her face, because he wants people to always be able to recognize her as the person that caused this devastation. And so Fragile decides the second she will save South Knot City, and she throws the bomb into the tar pit, but her body has rapidly aged, minus her face. And basically, like this, she's emotionally devastated after this, but she still continues to believe in what Fragile, the company, is doing. Her father died at some point, and she now runs the company. So she runs the company now, and Higgs and the Homo Daemons decide to, keep terrorizing the world, essentially. Okay, so we're at that. Oh yeah, so this is Amelie. with her, like she has like a tank top on, and this is her being held at gunpoint by the Homo Daemons, talking to Higgs, and he gives her the ultimatum. So all this, like, her arms after this don't end up looking so smooth. Okay, so meanwhile, while all that's happening, Amelie has basically made her way across the country and has convinced all of these different cities to join the chiral network. Chiralium is all of the gold shit that you see in the game, all the little gold hands, all of the the gold on the some of the BTs have gold on them as well. It's essentially like a mineral that comes from the beach, and basically it's what powers, for all intents and purposes, the network connecting all of the cities together. So now they've set up all of these like points along the network, and now they need someone to connect them together. And so Bridget calls on Sam, and basically she tricks Sam. Is like very he's checked out, right? His wife died, his baby died, he caused a nuclear explosion. He is not about it, but she calls upon him and basically is like, Amelie is in trouble, right? And she is in Edge Knot City. It's the most western city. Okay, they're on the East Coast, and she's like, yeah, she's in trouble, and you need to save her. So it's like a 2-in-1 deal. Like, you go and save Amelie, but on the way you connect all of these different outposts together to the chiral network. And she basically does this on her deathbed because she still has uterine cancer, and so it's like her dying wish essentially for Sam to go save Amelie. So Sam agrees to it because Amelie is the only person he really has left in the world. Like, truly, like, after she is gone, he doesn't know that he knows nothing about her being the extinction entity or the soul of her mother and not really his sister. Like, he isn't clued into any of that. He thinks she's real. He thinks that she's really his sister, and he, is like, oh, you're the last person who even like knows who I am. Like, I have to go save you. So he heads out on a journey, and he's given a BB and a pod, one of the last remaining BBs. And he's given this to enhance his dooms, okay, because it's treacherous to cross on the surface, and it's also, he's essentially crossing the entire continent. So he's going to need some help. He already has dooms that allow him to detect BTs, but basically connecting to a BB enhances his ability to do that. That's why he has the periscope thing on and that clicks and can show the BTs. That's what that is. So he sets off, and he has this BB, but because it's enhancing his dooms, it's also enhancing his visions, and he starts to have visions of Cliff visiting his own BB. Now, at this point in the game, you're being led to believe that the BB in the pod is Cliff's BB, right? And it's the memories of the BB that are what Sam is seeing. But what he doesn't realize is he's seeing his own memories from when he himself was in one of the pods, and this BB is enhancing his ability to have those visions. So he goes along the whole journey, he's having all of these visions of Cliff visiting him in the hospital, thinking that it's actually this BB, but it's actually him when he was a baby as well. Again, let me know in the chat if you are following along to this, because it's a little confusing. But yes, they're his own memories. And he ends up naming the BB Lou, and that was the name. He starts to bond with this thing, and Lou was the name that he and his wife Lucy would have given their own child. So Sam continues on his journey. Oh yeah, he's having this is him having a vision of his dad, but he thinks that this guy is actually the dad of Lou, the BB that he's carrying around. So he's going around, he's connecting knots and cities and outposts to the chiral network. He meets a bunch of new people. He meets new people on the Bridges team and all these outposts. He starts working with Fragile as well. But as he's going, he encounters these giant storms, and he gets sucked into them, and he gets dropped off on various battlefields throughout history, essentially. And in them, he is confronted by Cliff, who is essentially calling out for his BB. Again, another reason why Sam thinks that Cliff is the father of the BB that he has strapped to his chest, but he's really looking for Sam. And when he comes out of the cliff, no time has passed, and so that they realize that what these storms are, what these battlefields are essentially a collective beach, and essentially souls that, people that die in such brutal ways, their souls kind of intertwine and mesh, and they, again, a beached thing is something that still is like tethered to the world. It's something that like has kind of leftover business, essentially, right? It's trapped in the real world, and these battlefields that Sam ends up on are like a collective beach, and they're all battlefields because it's where do you have mass casualties all occurring at the same time, in war. And so all of these people that have died in all of these wars are kind of forming these beaches that take on a kind of personification of the battles that they died in or whatever. Okay. And Cliff is at all of them because he used to be a military man, god damn it, and he is also still hasn't passed on because he still is looking for his BB, right? Baby. Okay, so Sam eventually makes it to Edge Knot City, and it's basically when Sam gets there, he realized like, oh, me connecting all of these cities together is actually causing more BTs, and he basically realizes that they haven't been connecting the cities to try and save the world. Them connecting the cities is essentially damaged, is about to bring on more death and destruction. And it's in Edge Knot City that he confronts Higgs, and Higgs creates this gigantic BT, and this, you see this here, it has a bunch of the gold on it, has a bunch of the chiralium, and he's like, I've got your sister Amelie, and who Sam still thinks that Amelie is a prisoner of Higgs, but Amelie and Higgs are actually working together, and basically Sam has to fight this thing. He is teleported by Fragile to Amelie's beach, and he fights Higgs. And he bests Higgs in combat and saves Amelie. And Amelie is like, if you need to get back out of the beach, you can just run along the beach. And they leave Fragile with Higgs, and kind of Sam is like, look, he caused you to rapidly age and all of this. It's up to you what you want to do with him. So Sam leaves, and we don't see what happens to Higgs. He is left at the mercy of Fragile. So Amelie basically is leading Sam back along the beach, But at that point, she is confronted by our friend John Blake McClane, aka Die Hard Man, is what he ends up becoming, and he takes on this mask, essentially as like penance, it seems, for having killed Cliff Unger, the man that saved his own life. And basically, and he runs bridges, and we've seen him in the game before, but he manages to get onto Amelie's beach, and Amelie confronts him as Bridget. So she actually like takes on like the look of her old self as Bridget. And Die Hardman has basically figured out Amelie and Bridget's plan to end the world, and he uses the gun that he tried to kill, or that he refused to kill Cliff with, but she pulled the trigger for him. He tries to shoot her with the same gun, but it doesn't work. And at the same time, Cliff shows up. He comes out of the water, and he is like, yo, he points the gun at Amelie, who again looks like Bridget right now, but it's her. It's her soul, right? Bridget's soul, Amelie. And he points the gun at her, and he's like, I'm looking for my BB. And she points towards Sam, who is carrying the BB. So he still thinks that it's Lou in the pod that is his BB, but it's not. It's Sam. So she points towards Sam. Cliff makes his way to Sam, but she pushes Sam into the water. We don't actually, it's not clear as to why she necessarily does this, but I interpreted it as that she was worried that Cliff could harm Sam, and the thing with Sam's repatriation is it only works if he's in the real world. If he dies on the beach, he can't repatriate. So she tries to save him, and she basically pushes him into the sea and forces him to travel back to the real world. He basically wakes up outside of Edge Knot City, which is the very western city, and he gets everyone on the phone, all the people that he's met at bridges, all of the people in the cities who are he's teamed up with and met. He's like, hey guys, shit is fucking crazy, okay? Right? No one knows where the director's gone. BTs and timefall is like happening at an accelerated rate. The walls between the lands of the living and the dead are being completely torn down, and Fragile is basically able to teleport all of the people on the crew to Capital Knot City, where the journey began. But her teleportation, her dooms, they take a toll on her, and so she's unable to teleport Sam back. And she is like, also, because the walls between the worlds of the land and the living are breaking down, the beaches have become incredibly volatile, and so the act of teleporting is even tougher now, and so she can't get Sam back, and they're basically like, you gotta walk all the way back to the East Coast. So he starts crossing back, and at the very end of his journey, he is caught up in one last storm. And in that storm, Cliff is like, gets his hands on Sam, gets his hands on the BB, and then he realizes that the BB in the pod isn't, because he thinks the BB in the pod is Sam. He doesn't realize that Sam is his son. And so they hug, and he comes to realize this, but Sam doesn't realize himself what any of that means. He hasn't put two and two together that Cliff is his dad. So Sam wakes up in Port Knot City, so he's very close now to Capital City. He's almost back. And when he gets back, he speaks with Dead Man, who is, oh yeah, this is him getting a hug. Yeah, from his dad, which he still doesn't understand. So back at, after getting a hug and getting put back in the real world, and now Cliff has moved on, right? Cliff has passed on because he finally got in contact with his child, who is Sam. But Sam wakes up, he makes it back to Capital City, and he speaks with Dead Man, who is Guillermo del Toro's character. And Dead Man basically reveals that, hey, the director left a recording behind in case he ever went missing. He was like, I'm heading to Amelie's beach, and if I'm not back, like, listen to this recording. And it basically reveals everything to Sam. It reveals, like, it basically is like, hey, like, it doesn't make any sense that Amelie is Bridget's daughter, because of the cancer. Like, how could she have had her? Like, they had, I essentially, you know, maybe they had, you know, the surgery would have meant that she wouldn't have been able to conceive or, you know, carry a child, so Amelie cannot be her daughter. And then he's like, yeah, I basically started looking into it, and I realized that, like, I hadn't actually met Amelie. No one had actually really met Amelie. They'd only met her, like, in a hologram. The only person to have met Amelie is Sam. And so he basically starts to realize the truth himself, and basically has this recording left behind, and it explains everything to Sam. And he's like, and then Sam realizes, like, oh shit, like, you're right. I've only ever met her on the beach. Like, I only have memories of her on her beach. And so he's kind of thinking about all this as he's returning home. And he reaches there, Fragile's there, the whole team is there. And Fragile reveals that she killed Higgs. She says, I killed Higgs. Although now it seems that turned out to be a lie based on the Death Stranding 2 trailers, where Higgs seems very well and alive. But Fragile insinuates that she killed Higgs, and she says, she's like, he told me before I killed him that he was working with Amelie, and that Amelie boosted his powers that allowed him to give him control over BTs and Timefall, and that, like, basically, like, they were in cahoots the whole time. And that he's like, I was trying to end the world because she was trying to end the world. She enlisted me in this. And so Sam is like, well, what the fuck do we do? And basically they decide that he's going to travel to Amelie's beach and try to convince her to stop the last stranding, right? Stop her plan, or kill her. And maybe killing her will end the last stranding. But if Sam does kill Amelie, then he could be stuck on her beach for an eternity, right? He might not be able to get back. And it's at this point that Sam realizes, like, oh, he's made all these, friends along the way. He's made all these connections. He has Lou now. He has Fragile, who he clearly has feelings for. He basically realizes that, like, the world is worth saving, essentially. And so he's like, I'm gonna try and save the world, right? Which was the Amelie, before she did a 180 and decided, okay, I'm gonna end the world. When she was trying to save the world, she thought Sam was the key to doing that, so he ended up kind of like fulfilling his destiny all along, or whatever. So Fragile teleports Sam to Amelie's beach, and it's here that she basically explains everything to him. She explains that the universe is attempting to correct itself. It's if the universe expanded and created life, like, it needs to eventually return to nothing. and it's doing this through extinction entities. She is the extinction entity. She reveals, I initially wanted to stop the last stranding from happening, but the more I tried to stop it, the more I made it worse, and so I tried to like just expedite the whole fucking process. And she basically offers him two choices. Right as basically the last stranding is happening, she is like, you can stay here with me on my beach, right, and we can live here eternity together, and we can like let the last stranding happen, or he can like leave and basically, you know, like, good luck, right? Like, you know, you'll be in the world that is ending. So you can either stay or you can go, basically, right? And he decides to embrace her instead. And he remembers a time, as he's embracing her, he remembers this time when they were children together. And basically, Amelie was hinting at the fact that he was the only person who was able to stop her. Like he had the ability. She loved him so much that he could convince her to stop the last stranding from happening. And so she also explains that her visions of the apocalypse are never the same, and yeah, they're always different, and she doesn't really know what to trust, right? So she doesn't really know if the apocalypse is inevitable or not. It just kind of really seems that way. And she explains that she intentionally spread dooms to people to essentially connect to other people, to see that if any other people who would essentially have these apocalyptic visions could help her, like the more people that had eyes on it, essentially, the more she could figure out like what the truth was, what was actually going to happen, and help her also find a solution to it. And she basically in this moment has a change of heart, and you know, in seeing that Sam has kind of come back into the world and has decided to try to save it and try to be a part of it, she realizes like, okay, well, maybe he has a shot. Maybe he actually can save the world despite all the terrible things that have happened. And she thinks back to the fact that she is the 6th extinction entity. There have been 5 previous ones, and all of those previous strandings, right, all of those previous apocalyptic events never fully worked. Life, as Jeff Goldblum would say, life finds a way. And so she wonders if those extinction entities that came before her also had kind of like a change of heart, and maybe, you know, if she actually just gives life the ability to figure it out, maybe there's a slim chance they can stop the apocalypse from happening. And so she decides to, as the last stranding is basically washing, you know, about to enter the real world through her beach, she tries to hold it, contain it in her beach, and essentially disconnect her beach from reality, and in essence trapping it in her beach. And so as the last stranding occurs, she pushes Sam into the water and out of her beach. And this time he washes up on his own beach, but now he is trapped there. He doesn't have Amelie to get him back. She has started the process of disconnecting herself from the world, and he doesn't have Fragile to teleport him. So he basically is like walking endlessly across his beach. He starts to have these visions of Amelie, who like explains in greater detail what has happened. you know, how she was the soul of Bridget and how they became separated. They wanted to stop the last stranding. They thought they could do it, but they ended up making things worse. And so and she reveals that it was what did I write here? Lastly, she reveals to Sam that it was her making him a repatriate that caused the Death Stranding, and it was her that reunited Cliff and Sam, hoping to show Sam that he wasn't abandoned. But Sam still doesn't get that Cliff is his dad. So Sam is just like on his beach the whole time, and he's like there for eternity, and he's like, what the fuck do I do? But he still has the gun from Die Hard Man, the one that as a kid he was shot with, and he thinks maybe I can end it by shooting myself with this gun. So he tries to do so. He pulls the trigger, but it nothing happens. But it does kind of essentially like show the team back at headquarters. Essentially, it allows them to locate his beach. It allows Fragile to make the connection with him when he pulls that trigger, and they use the BB as a conduit, and they're able to pull him out of his beach. And so that is like the end of the main events of the game. After that, the world is kind of rebuilding, and now the chiral network is being, instead of being used to expedite the last stranding, it is being used to more easily move supplies across the country. And Die Hardman becomes the new president of the United Cities of America, and he vows to not let Sam's hard work go to waste. He also like basically breaks down in tears, and he's like, I'm really like, I'm sorry. Like he reveals like, I knew your dad, like I pointed the gun at him, she pulled the trigger, like I'm really fucking sorry. So yeah, so that happens. Then we've got Dead Man, and Dead Man comes to Sam, and he is like, hey dude, I'm real fucking sorry. BB, aka Lou, has expired. All BBs eventually expire, and like Lou was basically at the end of its like half-life essentially. And he's like, look, protocol here with expired BBs is to take it to the crematorium and burn it, but there could be a chance that it could survive if you were to take it out of the pod and try to revive it. But that is totally against protocol. You shouldn't do that, Sam. I'm telling you, you shouldn't. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Shouldn't do that. And so Sam starts the walk to the crematorium, and Deadman says, like, I'm going to deactivate your cufflink. You're going to have a half hour where you're off the grid. So, you know, use that time how you choose. I'm not hinting at anything. And so Sam gets to the crematorium, and he hesitates to put the BB in the cremation machine, and he like basically jacks in one more time, right, to the BB. And it's at this point that he realizes, he has like one final vision, and he finally realizes that like Cliff was his father, and that Lou is just some random BB and nothing to do with Cliff. And he gets a pep talk basically in this vision from his dad, and when he comes out of it, he realizes like, okay, I'm gonna try and save Lou's life. So instead of putting Lou in the cremation machine, he leaves his cufflinks to be destroyed, and he's trying to resuscitate Lou. And Lou is slowly turning into a BT now that they are outside of their pod. And he cradles Lou's body, and it's at this point, viewers, where I start bawling my fucking eyes out watching this happen. It is so emotional. and he basically just like decides like, okay, Lou's gonna go turn into a BT and I'm gonna go in this void out. And he accepts his fate, but Lou begins to turn back into a human, and he looks down, and in Lou's hand is Amelie's Kipu. And essentially this is hinting at the idea that, much like how Amelie saved Sam and sent him back, as Lou was passing into the afterlife, Amelie, right before she severed her connection to the beach, she saved Lou's life and turned her, well, it's revealed later that Lou is actually a girl, turned Lou into a repatriate as well. And so Amelie sent Lou back with her necklace, her Kipu, that she wears throughout the game, kind of as a message to Sam that, she saved his life, and that that's it, that this is the last that Sam will ever see or be connected to her, because she's severing her connection to the beach. And so Sam walks outside carrying Lou, and it's raining on Sam, and nothing is happening. There is no time fall anymore, because Amelie has contained the last stranding in her beach. Her beach is now no longer connected to the world, and so the effects of the Death Stranding are over for now. We'll see how long she can do that, and this is basically the last shot of the game. So the Death Stranding is over for now. Sam has Lou. They are off the grid. And then in a post-credit scene, there's a picture of Sam. There's a shot of Sam and holding Lou's hand, with the picture of him and his wife and Bridget next to it, and it's revealed in this that Lou is short for Louise, and that Lou is a girl, and that they were going to call their daughter Louise. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. That is the plot of Death Stranding. So hopefully that explains. If you're watching this later, please leave in the chat any questions you may have, and I will try and answer them as best I can. Again, this is based off of me playing through the full game, based off of all of the interviews and side content that you can read in the game, and over time piecing together all the pieces. There's a lot more that happens in the game. There's tons of characters, lots more that happens there. I do recommend, if you haven't played the game, go play it. It's phenomenal. But this should kind of catch you up with what exactly, is happening in this game and in this world. So before we wrap up tonight, we are going to basically scrub through the trailer. Here, let me just, yeah, we'll do that for now. And we will open up this other window. Okay, so we're going to watch the trailer for the latest trailer. There's so much in it, but I promise now, hopefully, watching this trailer will make a lot more sense now that we've explained the whole story. And I will walk us through, as we go, what I make of the trailer based on my understanding of the world of Death Stranding. Oh, whoops. Okay, so let's start, and then I will pause when it makes sense to.
An unrepentant criminal, guilty of illegally entering our country on multiple occasions.
The only thing that I'm guilty of is doing your dirty.
So the important thing to note with this is that this almost certainly is happening in the past. This is happening before the beginning of the Death Stranding. He's talking about him crossing the border from Mexico. Mexico is heavily featured in Death Stranding 2. Yeah, and he's like I crossed that border because you're paying me to do so.
And by way of compensation, we have overlooked your crimes.
Bring it on, because I'm not doing this shit anymore.
What makes you think you have a choice?
What kind of cargo?
Cargo like brain dead, pregnant women.
No one would possibly allow that.
Right, so he is basically explaining that he was supplying Bridges with the bodies and the babies for the BB program. So this is years before the events of Death Stranding.
That's why I have to smuggle them in. They make me bring them over from Mexico.
Right, so here we have obviously a baby with an umbilical cord. This is the BBs that are connected to these brain dead mothers.
This thing between us. It was a mistake.
No.
It's ridiculous how good this looks. I just want to say that. Like, the fact that this isn't like a real human is
No,
is
it was
crazy.
not a mistake. It was not a mistake.
Fun fact, by the way, those two are married in real life. Okay, so we have the babies in the throat. I didn't really explain that in my explainer. It just is like an animation, essentially. It basically happens when someone repatriates. Every time Sam would repatriate, this would happen. So this is Lou and Sam, obviously. And this is an amazing landscape. 11 months after the birth of the UCA, so this is 11 months after the events of the first game. Here we have a beach. Now, we've got a bunch of tombstones here. We've got all these BTs lined up. I don't necessarily know exactly what this is. This could be the remnants of the last Stranding on Amelie's Beach, which was disconnected from the world. Obviously, much like in the first game, how the cracks between life and death were forming, it seems clearly that the cracks in Amelie's containment of the last Stranding have started to form. Yeah, I don't necessarily know exactly what this is, but it's obviously shit is getting worse in the beaches, right? Servers line the beach, right? Automated poster assistance system showing deliveries have been automated. So it seems basically like the chiral network is, now that they've got the chiral network set up, that this is it in action. It's all robots. Okay, and then this is, it says a plate gate connects the continents. That's a new concept, not something that is ever explored or explained in the first game, but it seems that basically, like, I assume through the power of the chiral network, they can now use like beach technology / fragile like powers to teleport people between continents. It's basically a way to explain away the fact that you'll be traveling to different countries in the game, and this is how they make that happen. So this is the Magellan. A new ship rides the tar currents. You know, they seem to work for Magellan. Now, here is an interesting shot. We have Fragile. In her hand is the doll man or whatever that we see later on. We also see later on, it's based off of Faith Aiken. We also see Faith Aiken as a human. And there is a dead body in front of Fragile here. I think this is Faith Aiken. Maybe he was a real person that was a part of this Magellan crew and died, and essentially his soul, maybe he died and they put his soul, you know, to prevent it from becoming a BT, they put his soul in this doll and saved his life that way, and he lives in the doll. That's my guess on what is going on. Yeah. Currents that shake the earth. So yeah, it seems that the last stranding was not contained, and that it is now breaking over into the real world. So these guys seem to be the followers, the Higgs' new followers, and they seem to be bowing to Sam. And so this is like a cult around Higgs, around Amelie, basically the evolution of the Homo daemons and what Higgs was doing in the first game. Like, it's become a full-blown religion, and I assume, yeah, they want, like, the woman on their staff has to be Amelie. Obviously, the design behind her, this like half sun design, is her Kipu. And so, yeah, there's some cult forming around Amelie here. And obviously, Sam would be a deity in a way to them because he is Amelie's brother. Mysterious faction spreads. There you go. Okay, so what do we got here? We just got tar rising up into the sky. Chiralium warps the environment. So the world is getting all warped weird. This is an important line. The unending sixth extinction. So the last stranding is happening, and it's just never ending because Amelie isn't around to try and expedite the whole process anymore. So it's just like a slow, painful death, which is what she was trying to avoid, which is why all of the words of like, should we have connected? Should we have done this? Because now everyone's reaping what they sow. All right, we got Lou being a little cute kid.
To all the roads that we are, yeah.
The dead. Final Journey makes it sound like this this is just going to be a duology. I wouldn't be surprised, considering Kojima's next game after this is, you know, he's obviously working on OD, and then he's also got this Fizzant game, which is a more like an even more Metal Gear Solid inspired thing. That's a brand new thing. You know, and so like Death Stranding 3, I wouldn't put it past if he's writing this and making this to kind of be like the end of this story.
To pave the dreams that stillness entertains.
Now, why is Sam doing deliveries in this game? Why are we doing deliveries at all? Is honestly the biggest question I have. Like the most basic part of the game, which is you do deliveries. I don't know why we're doing it in this game, so that'll be interesting.
Now if my love for you won't make you stay, I don't know what
we're getting way more biomes. We're going to way
you
more
will
places.
never leave a trace where you walk. If the only path you
Let's get to
takes the one you're told.
let's go back a bit real quick. So yeah, there's a Bridges outpost. Again, he's doing deliveries. Unless they're flashbacks. I don't know. Like, is there something, you know, like the thing is like the beach exists outside of time. So is there some kind of like time travel shit happening? Are we seeing multiple timelines? The first game kind of dabbled with that, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what is happening here. Okay, so this is cool. This is more of a gameplay thing, but like it does seem that the game will have these kind of like dynamic weather events. And like that's how like this is going to be a new gameplay element where you have to worry about like weather and things like that, which is cool. So this is him delivering a corpse, dragging some stuff behind. So often in the first game, you would have to deliver corpses to crematoriums to burn them. An avalanche, there you go. Oh, here we go. So yeah, Bridges has become the Automated Public Assistance Company, APAC. So this used to be a Bridges outpost, and now it belongs to this. So Bridges, like, seemingly just doesn't exist anymore. And there's the doll. Hang on, I want to see these Kipus. So this would be how he would connect the different outposts to the chiral network before, but now they're these they're different now. They're designed very similarly to the kind of packs that the like this religious faction have on their back, and they seem to have some inscriptions. It's really kind of hard to make out, but yeah, like why he's doing any of this, like that, honestly, that's the biggest question I have. We see the doll man. This is cool. This is a South Korean actor. He was in Last Train to Busan, or Train to Busan, and The Eternals. I forget his name, but he's a fantastic actor, and he is obviously in this. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is just one of the many celebrity like kind of cameos that happen, because obviously Death Stranding 1 was filled with that. All right, we have so obviously like a lot of octopus stuff in this. The Magellan has the octopus logo as well. Lots of like oceans and stuff. There's mobile. So we've got Fragile here.
I couldn't protect Lou.
What does it say? DBSCC OBS? Is that what it says? Yeah, so the first game, this is just going to be a game that is going to take place across different times and show different things. Obviously, this is Fragile with Lou. We've got the religious cult people.
I tried to jump.
I'm assuming that's Higgs.
But I could only take my equipment with me. And I couldn't possibly think of Lou like that. There was no way for the two of us to escape together. The best I could hope for was to jump Lou out. Just Lou.
So what's interesting there is Lou has the tar for tears, which might just be a side effect of her being a BB. So there she is. Yep. Here they are. They turn into gel. I guess they have dooms and can do a kind of sort of teleportation like Fragile. Again, we have this reverse tar, right? And that I assume means things heading into the beach. He's getting sucked up. This is Sam getting, yeah, that like BTs are just like even more fucked up than ever before. He has a BB, so what's going on there? Like, that's the thing. Is that a new BB? Is this happening? When is this happening? Like, I have so many questions. And then Drawbridge, that's the new, I think that's their new private venture. I think it's like the kind of combination between Fragile and Bridges, and it's like what's left over of both of those organizations. But obviously here, two giant BTs. Higgs. More tentacles. Don't know, just fucking sick-ass motorcycle chase there. More BTs with a weird head. Getting sucked in. So yeah, so that's the imagery of the 5 like BT shadows, but under the ocean. I mean, just crazy imagery here, making more deliveries. What is going on? Higgs again, fighting these robots. This is a different faction. Oh, actually, that's an important shot. Let's see who's waving. Oh, it's that Rainy and Tomorrow, the Elle Fanning character, and I forget the Japanese actress's name, Shuji, I think. We'll get to it later. They'll show her name. So they're all members of Drawbridge. So what's interesting with this shot is a couple of things. Sam is wearing Bridges' pants. So this is a flashback. He's wearing Bridges' pants. His haircut is different. He looks younger. He honestly looks a bit like Fragile with his haircut. I think this is his wife. I think this is a flashback to him discovering his wife, or some kind of dream sequence. But as you can see, like, there's this ocean, like they're underwater and the light is passing through. I think he can travel through time or something to that effect. There's definitely time travel shenanigans at work, but I think that's what this is like, this is meant to depict like him coming back and finding his wife dead. Yep. Okay, cool. More vehicle shots. Okay, this is important. So this is doctors pulling back a cover. Don't really know what this is. I wonder if this is the reverse shot of what we just saw. There's this chiral tar cat. So this is a BT cat. I don't really, again, this is not something that we really saw in the first game, but again, it seems that the nature of what is happening with the environment with the Death Stranding is different. Sam is Norman Reedus, Leosto is Fragile. Tarman, as George Miller, seems to be the captain of the ship. And we got Higgs. So Higgs is alive, whether that means Fragile spared him or he survived. I had this theory when the first trailer came out that like him and Amelie kind of like morphed into one, or something to that effect. Elle Fanning is Tomorrow. Don't know what that means. Here's the doll. Shioli Kutsuna. There you go. So she can. So there's no more time fall, it seems. She can be rained on and she's okay. This is important. The president. The president is played by Alistair Duncan, who is, what's his name? Wasn't he in Game of Thrones? I don't even know. He is best known for his voice work. He's a Scottish actor and real estate broker. Oh, what? He was married to Anna Gunn? Okay. That's crazy. Yeah, so he's done some voice work. He's been in TV. Yeah, wow, he's been on a ton of different TV. Yeah, interesting. Okay. He's done a lot of video game work as well. So he's the new president. Die Hard man. We don't see him at all in this trailer, and obviously there's a new administration in town. I wonder what that could be a commentary of. Okay, next shot. Okay, there's this Charlie thing. What the fuck is this? I have no... Here's the thing. I know everything it feels like to know about Death Stranding. I have no idea what the fuck this is. Gonna be honest. Heartman is back. So Heartman is someone who was doing research into the Death Stranding in the first game. He basically explains the whole concept of extinction events and extinction entities to Sam. And you know, obviously he is back in this one. The Red Samurai, we don't know. Here is Neil, aka Fake Snake. And again, I think a lot Neil is going to be kind of I mean, we'll see it coming up, but he will be the Cliff kind of character where he's largely disconnected from the story and most of it is taking place in the past. And then Deborah Wilson as the Doctor, and for some fucking reason, she has 2 right hands. And I don't know why. But she seems to be, now here's the other fucking detail. She puts her hands on this fucking BB pod, and it's liquid. It's not a physical pod. I don't know. Like, I literally have no idea. Like, it's a part of the tar. The BBs have become, like, I don't know what's going on there. Sam's super sad in the shower. We've all been there. Like, who is this kid? We haven't seen him before. He's not in the credits. But, yeah. All right, so here's an important thing. So, we have Faith Aiken. We have this kid, and the kid has the doll. So I'm assuming he dies, his soul goes into the doll, changes the doll becomes him, essentially. Is this meant to be young Margaret Qualley? No, that doesn't make any sense, because this is based on the previous shot where Fragile is kneeling next to the body. Margaret Qualley is Mama, played Mama in the first game. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is takes place after the events of the first game. But they see like a white BT. So again, more weird shenanigans. Things are different this time around compared to the first game. And you can see like an actual face in there. Okay, then we have Lucy. I think her name is Lucy. Oh no, was that the last name of the actress? Anyway, they're having a fight. We have Rainey here with some people. They're throwing things at her. Oh, let's actually go back real quick. Okay, so we got a robot, and on its back is Higgs. That seems to be Higgs in the pod. Yep. Again, it's gotten crazy. So this is the new BB, and it's Rainey's, and whoever this is on the right. And she's got an octopus tattoo, or like a squid tattoo on her head. Maybe she was the mother and they were able to save her. Maybe this isn't like a true BB. Maybe this is just like I don't know. Maybe they just use the technology to save the baby. I don't know. Okay, so clearly tomorrow, Elle Fanning's character has dooms because she can control the tar. So she's doing some tar manipulation here. Oh, what's that at the very end there? Is she summoning something here on the left? Oh, sorry, my camera is totally covering. Is she summoning something, or is she covering something up? I don't know. Okay, we've got Tom Man with the cat. We've got Neil looking out. This must be... maybe he's viewing like a void out happening. The octopus in the pod, I don't understand. This seems to be the outline of Dead Man walking in this screen, walking towards Sam. Sam seems super sad about it. This is Higgs with Tomorrow. So what is their connection? Is Tomorrow a reincarnation of Amelie? is there a new extinction entity? I don't know. So we've got Leia Sado, we've got the mask here in the black source. Think it looks like Sam is holding it. We've got Higgs without his face mask, and he's got the equation. And he had this in the first game. He had like this shit like tattooed on his head. I don't know why. Never understood that. Doesn't matter. Lou with her hands, and then we've got like this big, basically seems like a BT. Sam firing a gun. Him sad in the shower.
Been alone this whole time.
They have a big smooch.
Death can tear us apart. We'll always be connected. We will always be with you, no matter what. You will never, ever be alone.
This time, I'll make a lasting connection with the Lady in Red.
Right, so he's hinting at
humanity deserves.
He's like, I'm gonna fucking do it. He's like, I'm gonna find Amelie. So Higgs is still the Lady in Red. Amelie always wore a red dress. So I'm assuming he's hinting at that. And so he's still looking for her. And he's still trying to make the last stranding happen. And for some reason, he's got a tentacle tongue, and I don't know why. But he is wearing her kipu. Or not, it's not her kipu, it's similar. Yeah.
For the sake of the future, we must all come together. As a barrier to the bad, and a gateway to the good. All hands.
Yep.
Brace for launch.
So they can travel through the beach using the ship. I can't read what's on these like tombstones. We obviously have all these like BT hands, and now they BTs are even bigger and badder, and they're formed by multiple different things. Like they can form BT Megazords this time, which is honestly pretty sick. And they have to face it down. We should not have connected. It was a mistake. Alright, so this is the scene everyone is like looking at. Alright, he looks like fake Snake. Now, okay, a couple of things with this. So the reason that he is cast is because Hideo Kojima was like, he could make a really good live action Snake, so he cast him in this like fake Snake looking character. But more importantly, this hints at the idea that he is dead.
Divided, made whole. With a few sticks for encouragement.
And that again, this is like the cliff beach scenes that take place in war. These guys are kind of unfinished with life and the real world.
The UCA's precursor, the United States of America, had a prominent gun culture. A distinctly American philosophy, and one which would appear to have spread to this continent. The more we seek to unite the people with metaphorical ropes.
Oh, hang on a sec.
The more we seek to unite the people with...
Oh, it's just a reflection on his bag. I thought he had like a BB strapped to his side, but it's his bag reflecting the orange fire.
The more essential sticks seem to become.
Yeah, so it seems that like once humans get shit back on track after the first game, it all starts to unravel. Then we've got this VR thing. Are we gonna have PSVR 2 parts of the game? I mean, Kojima could do it. Now, this is also interesting. So this is okay. So I got a theory here. So we see this hallway here. That previous shot that I said like looked like Sam, young Sam, you know, and I assume that it was his wife's body under the tarp on the table. I think he's in, like, they can essentially maybe view their memories through this VR headset, and that previous scene is happening in this virtual reality, and they can view previous memories, because these look like the hallways in the Bridges facility that Sam was when he was a baby and Cliff tried to sneak him out. That's kind of what this reflection looks like. So yeah, not entirely sure, but I think they're connected here. And I think basically the idea is that they've built this technology, this virtual reality technology. They've built it on the back of the beach, right? And like it's using the beaches to view maybe memories from the past. All right, and then we get to the absolute most bonkers shit of all time. I mean, I'm just gonna play it out.
DHB Magellan, integrate.
I don't know how Heartman is able to
Everyone.
to control a BT and do all this. Completely lost.
Hold on tight.
Got no clue. And there we go. So that's the trailer. Pre-orders begin then. It comes out June 26th. And so there it is. So some of it does make sense. Like I said, a lot of this is happening in the past. Anytime we see him in the suit, this is all before that. Obviously the chiralium is all weird. All of the Death Stranding, is different. Lou is in danger and fragile teleports are out. You know, I said a lot of this made sense, but a lot of it, now I'm scrubbing through it, a lot of it still is very confusing because it seems that even if you know about the first game, there's a lot of stuff that is going to be new and different and changed. And I'm betting it's because essentially the Death Stranding is back, and this time it's worse. So there you go. So that was the entire explainer of the very first game, and kind of my thoughts on this new one. I'm so excited for this. This is one of my most anticipated, and now that it's like kind of felt before this trailer that, I don't know, not that it wasn't coming out, but I just wasn't like excited. But now that I'm like, oh, I forgot how much I love the first game. I forgot how much stuff was going on, how many different characters there are, how many loops we were being thrown through. And I think that the second game is just going to obviously be doing a lot of the same stuff there. But I think it's going to have a much, somehow an even grander story, which is crazy to think, but super excited. Hope you are as well. Thank you for joining me. If you're leaving, if you're watching this after the live stream, leave a comment in the below. Let me know if you think I got anything wrong. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try and answer them. And yeah, super excited for Death Stranding 2. So everyone have a good night, and see you in the tar.